most impressive. They tried to knock you out, they tried to kick you where it hurts, you got up, you kept going, that was in there.
They know the writing's on the wall. Maguire, Senior, back to Maguire, Gary Maguire for Leeds! The young hero to win the grand final, baby!
Hi everybody, welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by ACD&B, who are a branding and creative design agency based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands, so for any companies out there that need a brand new logo or a brand refresh, just get in touch with ACD&B. Thank you, as always, to them for sponsoring us and for designing, for producing our fanzine. Issue 2 of the Lot 17A fanzine is available now. If you just Google the Lot Pod store, that first link on Google, that's us, the badges, and the latest issue of the fanzine is available to buy now. Joining me as always for this match review of Leeds United versus Arsenal is Statman Reese. How are you?
Wrong one. It's the wrong one.
Oh, sorry. Super Bowl 38 review. How are you, Reese?
I feel like this is like a counselling session. We've got to talk about the subject. And
WrestleMania? Is that what you're talking about? Last night's
Sean
day
Johnson's genius at beating Cranula. That's yeah.
Can we do an hour on why we should sign Sean Johnson in his current form?
I did say earlier in the year. Although as you said beforehand, I think he is potentially going to retire. But yeah, come on, proper counselling session. We're probably. I'm not surprised. I won't be surprised if Red Robin joins the chat at some point. But we are here
laughing
to
his head off.
We are actually
John from Red Robin laughing his head off in the comments after I said Leeds by 38. It is, of course, the match panel for Hull Kingston Rovers versus Leeds Rhinos. I guessed the poor sod because we didn't go to the game.
Yeah.
But I guessed one of our regulars actually went the poor sod. Who is it, Reese?
Probably one of our most eloquent speakers of guests, actually, I think I would say.
I agree. It's a toss-up and probably another poll between, I think, Cameron and Ian.
Well, I'm going to vote Ian. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Good evening, everybody. Hello. Yes, I'm here and survived the experience, and I'm here for the counselling session for the dissection of what happened.
First question.
I promised myself I'm not going to cry tonight.
Yeah, yeah. The first question for Ian is: how good was your waterproof on Friday night?
Well, I was under the stand. So actually, to be honest, if you are going to have a fairly miserable night, that's not a bad place to be. And I parked in the pound stretcher, which was only about 5 minutes walk to the away end. So there we go. So not too bad. Ka-ching.
So that's two positives for Ian already. He was into the stand and he could get home quick.
Yes.
Is there any more positives?
It's not as quick as I might have thought, but still, yes. I once you kind of get away from the People's Democratic Republic of Hull, it's not too bad. It's all sort of countryside back to where I live.
Did you take any more positives from this, Ian?
I took my daughter. Oh no, hang on. That's about the only other thing I took from it. Let's put it this way: I took the positive that there'd be plenty to talk about on here.
Reese, positives for you? Have you got any?
I was on the train coming home from London, so I didn't have to watch it. So that was
that's also a positive. Coming
Um,
out of London is also always positive.
Yeah, coming out of London, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only positive I can really take is James McDonnell, who is now probably one of 4 players that I would say that are the first name in the team sheet each time at the moment. And I think McDonnell's quite easily slotted himself in there. So yeah, I think he was the only positive on quite a woeful night.
I've got written down Oledzki because he did come back. So it was his debut for 2023. It was also Luke Hooley's debut. I thought that was positive. Seeing him, I was excited to see him when the team sheet got released. And to be honest, that kit is growing on me. I think it's starting to look good, that blue kit. Might just be me. I think I gave it a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 on the season preview, but the more I see it, it's growing on me, and I think it's got the more potential than the putrid third kit to be the new pink kit, if that makes sense. I think that blue one could be this year's lucky kit. Let's attack. Wrong word. That is a wrong word. Let's address the elephant in the room. I think there's only one starting point when it comes to this game, and that is Daryl Alfords. Now, prior to us giving our opinion, deep breath, everyone. Here we go. Prior to us giving our opinion, 2 of our regulars, we have, myself and Reese, we have WhatsApp, and Duncan WhatsApped us, and here was Duncan's take on Daryl Alfords. Alfords should have walked home at half-time, is what Duncan said. And then, before we jump into Reese and Ian, Laurie said, I would have released Alfords the morning after the game. So that's 2 of our regulars' takes on Daryl Alfords. Ian, you were at the game. You witnessed it before your very eyes. Your thoughts on Daryl Alfords?
Well, I think most of them are not printable, I'm afraid. I know, dare I plug my part in the Yorkshire Evening Post? Yes, it is me. It's the same one. I don't want to sort of sit there and bag players, but when he first arrived, the question was is why and who and how was he going to sit in the grand scheme of things? Bearing in mind he was already 30 odd, which is not a good age, and certainly not a good age for a winger. Where exactly he was going to sit in the grand plan, if he was going to be a reserve player. I appreciate our backline is somewhat makeshift at the moment, but the performance was, let's just say, well below what you would expect or what is expected to pull on the sacred blue and amber. And the thing is, all players have bad games. We know there are some pretty much everybody in their career has had a shocker. This is now sort of 2 bad games in the space of 3 games, because the cast performance was not too hot, and he was kind of sort of eased in last week against Catalan, so we can kind of ignore that one. But it was poor, I'm afraid.
Reese?
It's just amateur, isn't it? It's just so amateur. Like the one where he just doesn't even make an attempt to catch the ball and he just watches it. I mean, the one rule that you always taught as a kid when you play rugby is don't let the ball bounce. But it wasn't the fact that the ball, he didn't look to seem to be moving around everywhere. It looked like he just didn't look like he was going for it. And there was obviously communication issues between him and Hooley all night. But I'm not going to have a go at Hooley. Hooley's a young player. He's just, Super League debut with Leeds on a tough night where Jordan Abdul was kicking him all over the place. Alfords, I won't class him as a senior player because he's a good player. I class him as senior as he's way more experienced. And that, you can't be delivering those performances as a new signing at all. I mean, I praised him last week because he came on the pitch and he made some class meters and finished a great try, but it's easy to play well when the rest of the side is playing well. But there was just it's just amateur. That him not catching that ball and wandering around like a headless chicken is just so amateur. I really don't want to see him on the pitch on Sunday. Rowan's got to really have to take the bullet here. And he did drop him, obviously, after the cast performance. There's an argument to say he shouldn't be anywhere near the 17, but he might have to be just because of injuries.
Games develop. That's obvious, and it sounds obvious, and it is obvious, me saying that. But games develop, and they kind of progress and change live in-game. But this one just progressively developed into a nightmare. Like, for me, the first knock on, I go through like stages of emotion whenever a player plays like this. And from memory, Myler kind of had a similar game against Warrington early in the year. But I kind of remember Tom Briscoe having one, and I think it was in a cup game, might have been Wire or Hull, where he just kept getting bombarded with kicks. But in terms of Myler, like Reece touched on there, whenever the kick would come into Myler, I think against Warrington at the start of the season, and he was knocking it on, he was still adamant to make that play. He was still adamant to say, I know I've knocked it on 2 or 3 times and we've conceded tries with the back of it, but I'm still going to continually get to the ball and catch it or make an attempt, a play to catch the ball. And as this developed with Daryl Alford, it was kind of like the first one, I was like, oh God, here we go. And then the second one, I'm thinking, what is he doing? And then the third error, I'm just completely going to combust with rage, like blood boiling, livid with him. And then it comes to the one when he doesn't, like Reece says, he doesn't make a play for it whatsoever. I think it was in his senior, catches it, and then he tries to push him into, and he's so lucky that that senior's foot just centimeters is into touch, because it was, and I'm thinking he's completely gone. He's empty. He's a shadow. He's a ghost. He's an empty vessel. And at this point, I'm screaming at the telly for Rowan to hook him off. Just do something with him, because he doesn't exist. He's see-through. You can't see him. He's completely shot to bits. And I think there's points in a game where you have to do the player a favour and hook him off and adapt the team. And I think everybody, the majority of Leeds fans at that point would have said that's the right decision. Whether you push someone who's never played on the wing or push a centre on the wing and push someone to centre, for me, that was the moment where you reshuffle, because he's gone. The team, we weren't playing well at all. And for me, I'd have put anyone on the wing other than Alford in that moment, because I don't know why it is when Leeds play like this, like we did against Castleford, for whatever reason, this just might just be my opinion, but all the team seems to be dragged down to the same level. It's like it's very rare in these games that there's one player or 2 players that stand out, and you're like, right, he's having a good game, he's giving it a really good go. I don't know what it is, but it's just in these games that they also, if it just feels to me like if we're having a bad game, everybody on the pitch and the subs is having a bad game.
But where's your senior player though? Because this is the captain role for me. All right, and
exactly.
At the beginning, I wasn't going to take too much judgment. I thought it was a bit strange about us not having a captain. Made a bit more sense, obviously, everything that's happened with Lehman. But both in that cast game and probably the whole game and this game, that's a type of team where a captain, a senior player goes, right, new game, 0-0 at halftime, whatever you want to call it, saying, but it stops now. We all take that next level up in the lead from the front. And we haven't seen that in the games where we've lost. We've just capitulated. And I feel like when I saw the weather forecast, and I could see Laurie was tweeting it ahead, and it was like, I saw the forecast, I saw the rain, I thought, it's going to be tough for us as this, because we don't like structured, boring rugby. We want to be playing this mental, crazy rugby, but we've got to learn to be able to do it the tough way, and we've got to, and that I think not having a captain, not having a clear captain, isn't helping us.
What also was quite concerning for me, particularly the try right at the start of the second half, which was also fairly laughable. What you might not have picked up on the telly, which those of us are there would have picked up on, was the reaction of certain players. Now, the one that was sort of the admonisher in chief was Austin, and he was like pointing fingers and sort of basically having a right go at folks and particularly having quite a go at Harry Newman for what he did or didn't do, and Newman's reaction didn't look particularly good either. So whether there is a little bit of unhappiness in the camp or whatever, or whether it was just generally the conditions or whatever, it didn't look particularly good. But you might not pick that up on the telly, folks at home, because it wasn't something that they were concentrating on at the time, but was patently obvious to those of us who were there, because it was a try literally right in front of the Leeds fans at the Leeds end, where we were all tucked, and you could see the reaction of the players afterwards, and it didn't look a happy ship.
I mean, that's why Austin's not captain material, by the way, because Austin does this. He loses his rag. He loses rag with refs. I've seen him have a go at players before. But again, if you have a captain in there, a captain would have got Austin by the shirt and said, "No, you don't do that. We accept the mistake and we move on and we start again." And again, I'm kind of derailing it from Darrell Alfort's there, because he was awful. But I think this captain thing is starting to really niggle me a lot.
Well, I think because we don't have a captain, it's only in times of turmoil, I feel, and those big pressure games where you need a captain. And we've obviously been incredibly lucky to have the best captain ever. But in times in times of turmoil, and when it is difficult for us currently in 2023, and if we don't have a captain and everyone's speaking, to me, does that make everyone's voice meaningless? Does that make sense, Ian? Because I think, to me, if everyone's nattering and saying, "Oh, you should have done this and you should have done that, and where were you?" If the captain were to say, "Right, right, everyone zips up now. This is the captain speaking," and they lead by example, does that make sense, Ian?
Yeah, and also as well, fasten your seatbelts and raise your tray tables as well. But basically, and it might have been a case of, well, why are you bollocking me because you're not the captain? That may well have been part of the reaction as well, because it was fairly heated. I can't lip read, but it looked pretty colourful, and there was lots of pointing, and
I'm glad.
But whether or not, as I say, it was, well, you're not the captain, why are you telling me? I don't know. Well, I don't know. Hopefully that may well have been picked up on, and somebody will have maybe had a little word and sorted that out.
That try that Ian touched on there, Reese, from the kickoff in the second half, I can't remember a worse try Leeds have conceded. I probably has been some. Maybe someone in the comments will remember one, or someone listening back to this will tweet us and say, "Don't you remember X, Y, or Z try?" But that's one of the worst tries we've conceded in a long time, that Reese.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to watch Championship Rugby for the first time this year, twice, and I've never seen it. I hadn't seen anything as bad as that. And, so I can't think of anything worse. I mean, I've not even seen anything when I've played amateur rugby union. I've never seen that when I've played that at Yarnbury. I've never seen anything, even seconds and thirds, even sometimes in the fourth team when I was 17, 18 years old. I don't think I've actually seen that. And we go from, I mentioned on Twitter earlier that I feel like Leeds are bipolar at the moment. Like, you go from that second half at Catalan, which was some of the best entertaining rugby league that we've seen for so long, to the extent that Headingley was probably the best it's been since the new South Stand was built. And then we go to that. And I don't understand how you can go from the best of rugby league to the worst. I mean, I'm so glad that wasn't on Channel 4, because people would have turned it off. We talk about growing our game. If people see that, then Christ. Sky, can you stop putting us on TV? This needs to stop, actually.
We are always on telly, but there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. Let's talk about someone that Sky did wax lyrical about, and rightly so, in my opinion. I thought he had an awesome game, and I've kind of said once or twice on this podcast, I'd love to see him in blue and amber. And what I like most about him is he looks like a pub player. He looks like a halfback for a pub side, and I just think like he looks more like a prop than a halfback. Jordan Abdul kicked us to death, saw the conditions, kind of played similar. We kind of waxed lyrical about Austin, Stone Cold Blake last week, and his kicking game in the wind and how awesome it was against Catalans. It was like Austin forgot that. But Jordan Abdul kind of said, right, this is me. This is my zone. I thought they were awesome, Reece. Did you agree with the Sky coverage kind of saying and waxing lyrical about him?
I think his kicking game has been brilliant all year, to be honest. And I imagine when he saw that Myler wasn't at fullback and with the weather, he knows Craven Park well. I imagine he was rubbing his hands together, to be honest. And he played like it. He completely completely controlled the game of rugby on his own.
And the thing is, as well, before I come to Ian, sorry, the thing is as well, once someone like Abdul with his kicking game sees that weakness, that were it. It was that great white to the injured seal on it. He was just constantly bombarding that side, killing Alforts, obliterating him into nothing. And the more and more Alforts were making mistakes and he were having more success and KR was scoring, I felt Abdul was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he just became the giant on the pitch. And we just couldn't deal with him at all, could we, Ian?
No, that's part of the thing, and it's probably a little bit like if we go back a few years, the situation that we had with Danny Bruff, or Danny Scruff. Sorry, you know who I mean. The thing is, he was allowed to look good by being given vast amounts of room, and no one had the nous to go on there, either themselves or somebody from the bench, and say nail him, because pretty much every time that Hull KR were moving towards the fifth or the sixth tackle, they were going for him. They were the ball went back to Abdul and up it went, with what looked to be, and certainly at times, little or no pressure on him. And again, everybody said, "Oh, when Danny Bruff used to tear Leeds apart, he tore Leeds apart by the simple fact is he was given the room to tear Leeds apart. He wasn't targeted, he wasn't stopped." And the bottom line is there should have been the instruction out there to go and nail him, whether that, dare I say, by fair means or even foul. But the fact is, it was pretty obvious what the tactic was going to be. Fifth or sixth, boot it to Abdul, and he was going to then put us under vast amounts of pressure. So the question is you then respond by trying to nullify that pressure, and essentially take him out, probably by fair means, but by pressurizing him, by targeting him, but basically, going and putting pressure on him, whereas he had acres of space and bags of time to do what he did.
Just to emphasise Ian's point here, Leeds had 9 attacking kicks and 20 kicks in general play. Jordan Abdul had 13 attacking kicks and 20 kicks in general play. So Jordan Abdul had more kicks on his own on the night than the entire Leeds team.
And was allowed to.
Which that was just to emphasize your point, Ian, that we allowed him to do that. And I almost kind of, I think Adam said it in the comments. Why didn't we do it? Blake's got hell of a bomb on him. I mean, we were just saying tries are great, but
we were just saying a minute ago, Austin legitimately awesome against Catalan, and his kicking game and yet but. To me, as I said earlier, when games develop, you can have a game plan and say, right, this is how we're going to play against Wigan, this is how we're going to play against Hull KR, and adapt and develop in. But as the game develops, to me, if we've gone in there with a game plan for our halves and how they're going to attack and set things up, I would be looking across and seeing Abdul, and I'd be saying, I know this is how we've kind of agreed to play, but this guy's killing us. Have you seen what he's doing? Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Why don't we have Austin with his kicking game? Exactly like Andrew and Adam said in the comments. Why aren't we putting them bombs up? Why aren't we forcing something?
It was difficult to judge the conditions. I mean, a lot of the platform that Hull KR built was in the first half. Now I don't know how. Obviously, it was a fairly sort of blustery night. It was raining. I don't know. Sat in the stand, it was difficult to judge how much of a wind advantage they got in the first half versus what we potentially would have got in the second half. But as you rightly say, he's just done that in the first half. We've got the wind now. We're going to do the same in the second half. Off you go.
Yeah, it's worked for them. It'll work for us. Have you got some stats, Reese?
Yeah, I do.
Lucky us.
Where do we start on this one? Meters, total meters for the team was 848, which is easily the lowest for us this year by a long way.
Yeah.
And only just beats the previous worst from last season in round 12 against Saints, which I think was 831 in round 16. So, yeah, not great from a meter perspective. Our average carry across the side was 5.3 meters, which is the worst that I've seen since I've been doing the pods with you, Lottie. So, worst since the beginning of last season is that. It was the most tackles we've done this year, so 437. So that really kind of tells you how much defensive we have to do. We missed the second most amount of tackles we have done this season, so 39. It was the second worst number for tackle busts, which was 16. Second worst for carries this year, which was 161. We had one clean break, which is the worst this season. Errors, we had 14, which is the joint worst this season, and pens, we gave away 7, which was the second worst. So, team-wise, not really a good look. The only thing that makes it slightly better is that we were worse at Warrington, so that's a slight positive. And then, of those 848 meters, not one player got 100 meters, which again is a first for me. I've never seen that whilst I've been doing these stats, which is always the beginning of last season. 3 players came close, which was Smith with 97, Martin with 96, and Austin with 90. Tackle-wise, this probably will make sense to you all, but the usual 3 are leading the way again. O'Connor did 76 tackles. Cam, 75 tackles, and McDonnell, 56. Holroyd did 48, which is probably his height. So for O'Connor, Smith, McDonnell, and Holroyd, that's the most tackles by each of those people in a Rhino shirt. So I kind of like, do I applaud that? Because I mean, it's a hell of a shift from O'Connor and Smith. That means they're tackling someone at least nearly every minute. But at the same time, I'm like, why are we having to do that much defense? And then errors-wise, it probably shouldn't come as a surprise. Luke Cooley's been credited with 5 of the 14. Again, similar to the Cass game, 8 of the 17 players contributed with at least 1 error. Daryl Alford somehow only contributed with 2, which I feel like he's been let off lightly there.
That's impossible.
Yeah. That's impossible. He should take at least 2 of Hooley's off him because he was at fault. So, yeah, stats-wise, not really that great.
Perhaps you can't make an error if you don't go for the ball in the first place.
Well, that's what someone said, actually. Maybe it wasn't an error because you didn't make the effort in the first place.
He couldn't be bothered to try to attempt to catch it. For some of the worst stats we've seen them, and I think we always say that the stats don't always tell an accurate story, but in this sense, they definitely do. I mean, it was one of the worst games I've seen in an incredibly long time. Do you kind of agree with Reese, Ian, in that it was Luke Cooley's debut and he should not get off lightly, but kind of be given a bit of a free hit in that Super League debut, just come back from injury, etc.
Yeah, I think Hooley does have the excuse in terms of, as I say, he's been injured. I think probably as well, he's gone into that game somewhat undercooked. I think he only had 1 appearance on dual registration, I think, since coming back. Also as well, this is his first Super League appearance. It is kind of one of those things where he is dropped in to I think probably also at fairly short notice as well, given the Richie Myler reasons of not being there. So I think he can be potentially excused. However, you've also got to consider that even if you are a championship fullback, the tactics that he faced were not something that he wouldn't have come across. It was, people putting up high bombs, people putting up high kicks, etc. I appreciate it's a confidence game, and I also appreciate we've seen folks have the wobbles at particularly big occasions, and essentially you could argue that it was the Lads Cup final, and we all know folks who have dropped that vital first ball in a cup final and gone to pieces. So but he can potentially be excused by virtue of the fact it is his first time on the big stage.
You can compare it to the Warrington performance. So Myler, first game of the season, Myler puts a performance out like that, he doesn't get a free hit. He's a senior player. He's been with the team for a long time. We expect better of Myler. And so that for me is why Luke doesn't necessarily get a free pass, but you can say, look, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to say that the boat has sailed. I'm not going to say we need to get rid of him because it wasn't an easy night with the weather, with Jordan Abdul kicking, but as Ian correctly says, he's probably dealt with worse in the Championship. Arguably harder kicking games because the kicking's worse. You have no idea what's actually going to happen. But what I do like with Luke is that he's come out and done an interview on YouTube, and he's come out, with the club, and he said, look, he's disappointed with his debut, but he'll use that experience to continue to learn and improve his own game. Now, whether that's mandated by the club or not, that he's had to come out and do that, or whether he's done that on himself, I don't really care. To come out after the heat he's probably faced on social media to do that is good on him. And I imagine, because I believe Myler, was it because his partner went into labour? So
Myler's had another kid, yeah,
sure, heaven's pleased. I imagine then because of that, it's been a late change, and the preparation wouldn't have been with Luke starting, which probably wouldn't have helped him. So I'm not going to give him excuses and all these excuses, but he's certainly the boat hasn't sailed. He's still got a good opportunity to be a Rhinos player and push Myler.
If we binned players for a crap first appearance, then we could probably wipe off half of the squads that we've had, really. So you are entitled to a dodgy one first time out.
God, I was entitled to loads. I'm entitled to loads, and Eddie's kept me on the pod. So
Lewis Roberts scored his first try, I think. Has he scored? Second try? First try?
First.
Couple of positives. First try. I thought he finished it well, and I thought the kick from Caesar was lovely, Reese. Nice little kick through. Decent try, did you think?
Yeah, it was nice to have a try, wasn't it? It was a good try, to be fair. I quite liked it. It was a good kick from Caesar, the sort of kick that we would expect Caesar to be making more often and a bit more consistently each game. But yeah, it was, and that'll do Roberts some confidence as well, because I imagine that there is a winger spot available with Fussy Tua being injured. Hanley might not be back, so there's going to be a winger spot available potentially. So that's a good confidence booster for Roberts.
It was a nice thing. And McDonald try as well. He's progressing so well, James McDonald. I mean, he's turning into a serious first-team player now. And we've kind of said throughout this podcast throughout the season now that it's pretty much one of the first names on the team sheet. In a position, Ian, where we're stacked with international quality players. What have you made of James McDonald? Obviously, it's your first appearance of the season, so it's your first time speaking.
I've been very happy with him. I think he's obviously grasping his opportunity. He's got a great pedigree. And I know you will have the certain branches of our great support that say, why are we signing him? Well, effectively, he was ex-Wigan, ex-Great Britain, ex-England Academy. He'd had a stint at Lee. Perfect. Yeah, that's and young as well. Get rid of, so he's coming through. What is he, 22, 23, 24? He's not that old. Yeah. We might have to go and look that up in terms of how old he is, but he's not that old. Perfect. Exactly the sort of player that we should be looking for and recruiting. And to go back to the previous thing, certainly the likes of Hooley as well. I mean, we should be, if we're not being able to develop these players through our own youth system, or our youth system needs an overhaul, which generated the golden generation, what we should be doing is doing effectively the same sort of thing that got Alex Walmsley found, is going into the Championship, going in that and looking at players of potential and picking them out and saying, "Hey, do you fancy some time in the bright lights at Leeds?" Because there ain't going to be too many players that are going to turn that down from the Championship. So great, fantastic, exactly the sort of player that we want coming through. Delighted for the lad that he's grasping his opportunity with both hands, and that he's now becoming an integral part of that side. And it's players like that you then build teams on going forward.
He's my first second row on the team.
I agree.
He's my first.
Well, he is. He's one of the first names. Yeah, he's one of the first names on the team sheet, regardless of whether Gannon's coming back or he's back, Bentley back, Martin. McDonald is the first.
I mean, we'll talk about team changes later on, but the first four for me at the moment are O'Connor, Smith, Martin, and McDonald.
Yeah,
they slot in. I mean, you could probably put Harry as a fifth in there.
Harry and Cam. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I mean,
so those are the great players. Carry on, Ian.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, we're getting now the reputation of perhaps being a dry weather side or a good weather side, which is fair enough. But the point is that we are still undergoing a rebuild a little bit at the moment, and it's good to see that maybe 3-4 years ago the team was littered with 30 plus year olds, whereas now we've got Holroyd coming through at 24, we've got McDonald coming through, we've got players coming through that are young, fit, hungry, and it is looking good going forward. That's just the sort of thing that we need, and we need to get them in and integrate them and weave them in, and long may it continue.
I mean, sorry, Eddie, before you crack on, I did have a look at the average sort of stats in the Rowan Smith era last year and how they're comparing this season so far. And not a lot of things are that different. So last year under Rowan, we were averaging around 345 tackles a game. Oh, this is just Rowan's games. But this year, we're tracking at 346. So literally one tackle apart, in terms of an average. Tackle bust, we're averaging 32 this year. Last year, under Rowan, we're averaging 37. So not massively off the mark. Last year, we had about 185 carries. At the moment, we're doing 186, although we were making 1,297 metres on average per game under Rowan last year. And this year, we are falling behind with 1,186. But the key one for me is that we are conceding about the same amount of tries as we were under Rowan, 3.3 a game last year, 3.4 this year. But crucially, we're falling behind on tries scored. Last year, we were getting about 3.7 tries per game under Rowan. At the moment, we're tracking at 3.1. So it can be argued we're not taking we haven't, I know Ian says we're going to a rebuild, but hopefully in the rebuild, you want to move forward. And at the moment, I'm struggling to see where we are.
I still believe if we had a fully fit side with the squad entirely available, we would be a match for the vast majority of teams in the league.
I think we could be, but we were so excited in the lead up this game. Everyone on Twitter was going, "How do you choose a pack from that?" And regardless of the weather, the pack did not. That conundrum we all had in our head did not come to fruition at all. Which nicely leads us on to Eddie's favourite subject.
I just think that, we kind of spoke about Zayn Tetevano against Catalans when he was playing the second row and he did that amazing big hit, but I thought he was dreadful against Fulcar again. And it just got me thinking, this is a marquee man and an overseas quote, and I know I'm obsessed with it all, but what highlight reels, what do we get from this man? Apart from that big hit last week and a couple of red cards, is there anything else anyone can remember Zayn Tetevano doing in a positive light? I can't, and I'm just exhausted with it. And I feel now, especially now that, and Duncan will back me up on this, Sam Walters, should be getting the game time. He's been playing really well all year. We don't know if he's got a niggle, so he's playing a game, missing a game, or if Rowan's just continuing that transition into him becoming a prop. I think he is a prop already, but we don't know why Walters isn't playing. But when I see Walters not in the side, and then Tavana putting in a performance like this, it drives me mad. Do you agree with that, Reese?
I do, and I do agree with what you're saying, and I get more frustrated when I see Paul Vaughan stats because that's marquee money. I think he got 193 on Saturday. You know, when you're paying marquee money for that, but Paul Vaughan is probably an out and out prop. I think Tetivano's better games are at second row, and where the side at the moment with Reece Martin playing in centre, I'd be dropping Bentley and giving Tetivano the second row slot because I think that's where he is. We don't really have a really good ball carrying, strong second row, but he doesn't help my argument because he wasn't very good on Friday at all. But I think that's because he's not playing where he should be playing. And it is a bit strange with Sam Walters, and there's quite a few people commenting in the comments about Sam. I don't understand how he goes from starting one week and then not playing at all. Like, look, if Sam Walters is a prop, play him as a prop. If Zane Tefano is a second row, play him as a second row. I think if you asked, here we go. Here's a Twitter poll for you. If you asked who you'd prefer to stay after the season, Sam Walters or Tefano, I would expect that to be a win for Sam Walters.
Oh, massively. 90% win. Easy. Bare minimum, 90% win. Ian, Zane Tefano, Sam Walters. How do you see it?
I don't think Tefano is value for money.
Worst league signing. The worst Super League signing in history. He is.
Oh no.
For money.
Oh no, there are worse.
Says, value for money, it's impossible. Because this guy's on marquee money. Worst Super League signing in history. Carry on, Ian, sorry.
Far be it from me to sort of swap sports and swap teams, but is he turning a bit Thomas Brolin?
I'm old enough to remember us signing him.
Yeah, I'm not, so sorry.
Don't worry.
No, sorry, I'm laughing.
But
Sam Walters has to stay. Yeah.
I think Tefano's contract's up at the end of the season, isn't it? So if he goes, then
also Sam Walters. That's why I made that sort of question, because
keep Walters. Yeah, keep Walters and go and sign someone else, perhaps in a position that we, in inverted commas, need more.
To be honest, I'm sick of signing marquee players or quota players because we're just not hitting.
I'm
almost kind of like, just forget quotas. Let's leave some space. Let's leave 2 spare where we need it, but go after, as in Rhino's brand and strength as a team, we should be able to go get any Super League player. And I know that comes across as arrogant, and I probably don't give a crap that it comes across as arrogant, but
it's true. You're talking facts.
I'm just sick of how good or poor our quota spots are being used since the Golden Generation era. But yeah, I think, as Duncan said multiple times, you play with. Oh, he said yesterday, play with fire, get your ass tickled. I've got a feeling that we are playing with fire with Walters at the moment, but he might be of a better character than a certain previous captain that has spat his dummy out.
Man of the match to finish it up. I can't believe we got just almost 44 minutes out of that. By the way, well done.
I feel a little bit better though, don't you?
Well done, team. I hope I feel better. I hope everyone listening feels better. Man of the match, Ian. You went to the game. Man of the match out of that bunch.
Let's go for McDonald, and let's go for him in terms of McDonald in terms of the performance and the try and everything. Let's go for that because he's the one that did put a shift in and is looking good.
Do you agree with that, Reese?
Yeah, McDonald. Well, I was going to say LNER because their internet was pants. I couldn't watch it. But yeah, McDonald. Yeah, out and out the best player. I mean, there's a shout for Cam in there. Most meters, most tackles, leading.
There always is. There's always a shout for Cammy and Jared.
Yeah,
there's always a shout for them.
But that's standard. That's a captain for me. Cam Smith is the only player in that 13 that deserves to be a captain in that side at the moment. So, but that's a different question. McDonnell was easily probably the man of the match tonight. On Friday, sorry.
I agree. McDonnell is the Lot Pod man of the match. We did lose the game. What was the score?
Don't care.
2012.
Somehow,
we lost.
20 points to 12.
2012, we lost for that stats man that says I never read the score out. We lost 2012. On to Cruz Leeming again. And Reese kind of said prior to us going live and recording this that he wants this to be the last time we speak about Cruz Leeming. And I think we all agree. But it has now been confirmed that he is joining the Gold Coast Titans for the remainder of the 2023 season. And we've also heard from Cruz because he released a statement on Instagram, I think it was.
Yeah.
Do you have that statement, Reese?
Yeah, I do, yeah. So Cruz says, I have loved playing for Leeds Rhinos and I am immensely proud to have captained the club at a Challenge Cup victory and the grand final last season. Was he captaining that Challenge Cup game in 2020?
No, it wasn't. It was Luke Gale.
I thought it was, yeah. Anyway, I have always given my absolute best for the club, and that is why I'm sad that my time at the club has come to a premature end. To play at Headingley in front of the amazing support has been an honour and a privilege, and I wish the team and the club every success. However, it is my understanding that this move suits the coach's wishes, and I know this is how things go in professional sport. I have nothing but admiration for what Gary Hetherington has done at Leeds and would like to thank him, Kevin Sinfield, Richard Agar, and Jamie Jones Buchanan for making my time at the club so special. Sorry, I'm giggling because obviously there's one certain person not mentioned in that list of people. Cruz goes on to say, I look forward to meeting my new teammates and a new challenge in the NRL with the Gold Coast Titans.
Ian, myself and Reese, we've spoke about this twice, I think, on the podcast. Obviously, it's your debut. Your first time of speaking on the podcast about Cruz Leeming. How do you assess the whole situation?
Well, here we go. Well, there is one school of thought that suggests, and this will get the people writing in and complaining, is that that you wouldn't clap Christ if he wasn't in a Leeds shirt. So the thing is, the way that I see it is that, well, first of all, as a first team coach, you are not there to make friends. The point is. What I've seen is that he obviously got injured last season. Prior to that, he was being tipped for potentially an England place. Had he have perhaps come back fitter or earlier, he could well have actually got in that England squad. And I suspect that things might have been quite different. But whilst he was injured, we've of course got now Jared O'Connor coming through, who is producing stats as well as, if not better than, Leeming. I would also think from a salary cap point of view is it was considerably cheaper. And also, I think that probably a coach will have had the little word of, well, hang on a minute. Here's what O'Connor is producing. Here's what you are producing. On those figures, I'm going to pick O'Connor. It's up to you to get your finger out and get your place back. And I suspect at that point, that has not gone down very well in terms of, well, I should be the lead player. I should be. This is, purely conjecture. But it should be a case of, I should be back in that team and I'm back and I'm fit, etc. And the coach has said, well, no, produce it, because he's not looked particularly hot at the beginning of the season as well. So I think the conversation has been had and certain people have not liked what they've been told. Throw in the likes of agents who are quite prepared to stir it, of course, if there is a fee involved. And that's probably where we are. And it's a case of, certain folks have rung up Gold Coast and said, we've got him if he's available. If he gets a release, and Gold Coast have probably said, oh, yeah, we could do with him. Thanks. We'd be interested. And that's kind of where we are. But if you don't want to stay at Leeds, because let's face it, as everybody kind of says, it's the promised land. If you don't want to stay here, then we ain't going to stop you. So, you can go back, go and see if it's any better anywhere else. And we'll also see as well whether he's back in Super League in 2024. I hope he goes and stuffs it, and I hope he becomes England's regular hooker going forward. But there are a lot of players who thought that they were a lot better than they were, gone to Australia, and suddenly found themselves back in this country at the beginning of what would be next season.
Just something we mentioned as well, like there are peaks and troughs in rugby. Players will go into form and players will go out of form.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously with Cruz's injury and stuff, but there is, and I said it on with, I think it was when we had Sam on, but if Jared doesn't play a good game, or Cruz came on from the bench and changed the game, then he's fighting for his place. Equally, if Caesar gets injured or Jared gets injured, there's a spot for Leeming there. And I just think that the whole spitting of your dummy thing out, it really does, it annoys me because I thought Cruz played for the badge. I thought he was one of those players that really went through it. And obviously we don't know what's being said behind the scenes, but Jared is the best hooker in the side at the moment. But that could change in 2-3 games.
The other thing now is with what's creeping up is Corey Johnson is back on the scene and is now going to start to develop. And to be honest, Leeds have persisted with him for quite a while since he was very young. So they obviously think that there is something about him. He went away and went back into the normal world that the rest of us inhabit for a year, and then came back and has started to sort of hit the straps again. It could well be that he's the hooker. The other thing that's kind of annoyed me when the Leeming thing first broke out was everyone going, "Oh, well, we should have kept Brad Dwyer. We should have kept Brad Dwyer." Well, in the grand scheme of things, first of all, you need to remember when the sort of the anti-tamper deadline goes, when contracts begin to be freed up in the middle of the season. Now, that was only really a couple of weeks after Rowan Smith arrived. And the other thing with that is that nobody knew what this situation was going to be. Nobody knew that then Leeming was subsequently going to get injured. Leeming didn't know that he was going to go. And Dwyer, Leeds indicated that actually there wasn't going to be a contract for you, Brad, which is why he went and signed for Hull. The other thing I would also just sort of go off on a tangent and point out to him and saying with Dwyer and with Sutcliffe, they appear to be, well, let's put it this way, Hull FC are blowing hot and cold worse than we are, as they are. So they're not exactly turning Hull into a consistent operational outfit. So, it's, we shouldn't have got rid of him. Well, we shouldn't have probably got rid of Tommy Briscoe then at this rate and put him instead of Darryl in. But there we are. It's the way it goes.
My last thing on Cruz, because I'm sick of talking about him. But the last thing, but I'm also talking about him lots because he triggers something inside me at the moment. But no one can argue he hasn't spat his dummy out because he hasn't put Rowan in that statement.
Yeah.
He's clearly not happy with how Rowan has said that he's not there. So he spat his dummy out. If you spat your dummy out like he's done, then you don't deserve to wear blue and amber. Simple.
I think, because for instance, Gary Everington came out and said to the Evening Post, to Peter Smith, the Evening Post, Cruz didn't get selected against Castleford. He didn't like it, and off the back of that, he's asked for his release. That came from Gary. Those words, something to that effect, came from Gary's mouth. Has Cruz corrected that in his statement, in his own? I don't think he has. And I think the fact that he doesn't mention Rowan by name as such, he kind of says him leaving suits the coach, just the coach's wishes. To me, putting both what Gary said, the whole scenario, and Cruz's statement together, I think it does add up that he spat his dummy out because he's not playing, because he's no longer captain. That could be the root cause of all this. That could be the foundation. The fact that he was the captain last year, and now Rowan said, "No, you're not the captain going forward. We're not even going to have a captain." That could have been the initial thing that kind of put Cruz's nose out of joint. And then from there, it slowly developed, and he got injured, and then he's been in and out, and then he comes back to fitness. And Rowan says at Castleford, "You're not playing. You're not." He might have even said to him, "You're not playing at all. You're not even on bench." And then Cruiser said, "Right, well, get stood on. I want out." So if that's the case, and it was Rowan or Leeming, then there's only one winner. It's going to be Rowan every time because I think we all agree, or the high majority of us, that Rowan's here as a long-term project. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a couple of seasons to get this squad to how he wants it. And if Cruz doesn't fit that, then I'm afraid it's time for Cruz to go, and he's gone. I do hope, I echo Ian in that, and I kind of tweeted it earlier. I hope he goes out to the NRL and I hope he smashes it. I hope he has as good a career as Josh Hodgson. We say, oh, he's a good player. But having said that, I do think he'll be back in Super League sooner rather than later. Is that enough from Cruz Leeming? Are we finished?
Done. That's it now. Don't want to talk about him ever again.
Yeah, we're not allowed to mention Cruz Leeming on this podcast for the rest.
Unless we're talking about missed tackles and comparing a stat, we're not talking about Cruz Leeming.
We're not talking about Cruz Leeming again.
Exactly, Ian. Yeah.
Exactly. Just to finish up, then we do have Huddersfield at home next as part of a double header with the ladies who are taking on York. I'm not going. I'm booked, so I'm not even going to the game. So in true fashion, yeah, exactly, completely double booked. Not going. We've got Charlie from Busted DJing as well. He will not be as good as Pat Sharp, but make sure you get on down.
Sorry, I thought for a second there, I thought where you double booked at. Like I thought you just got Easter Sunday dinner and you managed to get Charlie from Busted to do your DJing for your.
Charlie from Busted is coming to DJ for us.
What else are you having your Sunday roast at Easter? I thought, bloody hell, you've done well, haven't you?
No, it's Pat Sharp that's DJing our Sunday roast.
Oh, so yeah,
because he's the best. So Huddersfield squad changes, Reese. Walter's in, Tyndall in for Alforts. Myler back.
Right, Myler plays back. Luke probably won't get the chance to come back. Obviously, Myler's will be back after his newborn. So Myler will be back. It looks like Fuzzy 2 won't be back anytime soon. I don't think we'll have Hanley.
We forgot to mention that, didn't we? He went off injured. Yeah.
So I'd be going. I'm not playing Alforts. I'm sorry. I would have to go Lewis Roberts, Newman, Martin, McDonald, Austin Caesar. It'd be Aledzki, O'Connor, Holroyd, Tetevano, McDonald, Smith, and then on the bench I'd have Sangare, Walters, and Bentley, probably Corey Johnson.
Ian,
just that danger of running the bench with 4 forwards, isn't it? Really, it's that.
Yeah, that's why I've kind of put Corey Johnson on at the end because I'm not having this James Bluntney played hooker in the under-9s for 2 minutes and therefore can play hooker bollocks. I'd rather have Corey Johnson come on if we need someone to come on at hooker. So, that's what I'd do. So there's no Lasone for me in that and that thing.
I think mine would be broadly similar. The only thing I would probably go for is maybe Tyndall over Roberts, bearing in mind Roberts didn't have the greatest of games either on Friday night. It's a harsh business, and maybe give Tyndall a go, or as I say, it's second chance saloon for Roberts just at the moment and see how it goes. But maybe Tyndall on one wing and then Nene on the other one.
I think we all agree, and by that I mean us on the pod and everyone listening, that Daryl Alforts can't play. He has to be taken out the line of fire. In terms of who replaces him, I'm kind of similar to how I was when we were discussing the actual game. In that, anyone, I'd even take Luke Hooley there. Hooley, Roberts, Tyndall, stick any of them on the wing as long as it's not Daryl Alforts and he's pulled out and given a week off to just refresh and reset and come back. That's fine with me. I really hope Nene's back because I think we missed his strike. And I kind of feel like, I know Newman had a good game, to be honest. We picked McDonald out, but no one really played well against Hull KR. But I feel that Nene could, I kind of mentioned where when we play badly, it seems they all play badly. But I feel like Nene could be one of them players who could make a break to kind of squeeze us in, kind of what Harry Newman could do as well. So predictions, Reese, how do you think we'll get on in this one?
I'll probably have at least 4 aneurysms during the 80 minutes, I think. You know what? It's really hard to be positive after the bipolar nature of the performances. But going the fact we've lost them one, then lost them one, then lost, we're due a win, and I feel like we're a different animal at Headingley. So I'm going to go for a 2-point win, 20 points to 18.
I suppose the only good thing about the whole KR game is that obviously it was Friday night. So we've now effectively got, 9 days between games. So we can go away, we can go lick our wounds, we can go practice a little bit. We know roughly what injuries we do and don't have and what the size of the squad is. And we can spend the next week or so, and probably already have, playing together as a team, working out what we're going to do. It's not a quick turnaround. Thankfully, they've gone for Easter is now a one round weekend, as opposed to having to play 2 games instead of playing one Thursday night and another one Monday, Tuesday. So at least we've got that benefit and that advantage. And as you say, we're at home. Hopefully the weather will be good. Hopefully we will lick our wounds and bounce back again. So you've got to go for a Leeds win. May not be by much, but hey, let's go for it.
Leeds by, come on, Ian.
Oh, I tell you, let's go for 8 then.
8. Leeds by 22 points for me, and I think Harry Newman.
You're being modest this week.
Said this. I am being incredibly modest. I think I have said this since Harry came back, though. Harry Newman will score a hat-trick. Reese, thank you as always. Ian, thank you for coming on and making your debut for the season. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to everybody for listening. There was no mailbag this last week. Me and Reese had a rest and a week off, but it will be back for Friday it'll be back on Friday. See you then. Thank you, everybody. Take care.